in our castle and go away from the keyboard. Although we'll see, the Aserai are just non-stop sieging us. So we'll see how it goes. Now look at our hibernation stock here. This is the stash we have at Roll Vault. Look at this shit. 18,000 grain plus another 7,000 bags of grain that I've been dragging all over as we bring all this food back to our capital here. Now, of course, that's going to allow us to maintain a decent-sized garrison and army here while we fast forward probably about 12 to 15 years. Again, I will have some, discussion about that. I will show, like, if major leaders of kingdoms vanish and stuff like that. But the main purpose, the main reason I'm doing this, I've mentioned it before a few times, we want to have mature kingdoms that we're fighting against. We want to have mature lords whose sons have now risen to age and become a factor in the campaign, right? There's going to be storylines around some of that. Of course, Baron York's own children will elevate to the age of fighting here. But with all this shit going on, I think I'm going to try to clean things up here a little bit. There may be a little bit of footage from it, but we're going to try to clean up the realm here a little bit. All right, friends, you're listening to the end of the previous episode here as we stitch these episodes together and continue now with the live narration. And there is trouble in the south, but I continue just to stick to the meat and potatoes here of this Batanian plain. When you're at war with multiple kingdoms like this, especially I've learned in this situation as the Vlandians, you're fighting everybody in here. It's a maelstrom. I know I use that word a lot, but this is truly a maelstrom here. We've got fog on the Batanian highlands here. Pancanak is under siege. Jaculan is under siege. I think that's the Aserai down there. Now we have a number of different Vlandian armies. It seems like they just have a swarm of armies here, but these are enemy tracks, and it looks like they just took Druamore Castle and are coming this way. So it didn't take long for us to find action. And this is the difficult part, right? We got two armies coming in here. They're coming to Ormondfard Castle. That's right here. So, of course, I want to do the time lapse, but we have to have a little bit of stability before I do that, because I actually do want to go away from the keyboard, so to speak. I'll do about 15, 20 years. We'll see. Some period of time lapse, and with rare exception, I'm not going to stop it. In other words, I'll check in on it once in a while. Let's go ahead and start an episode here. Welcome back again to another episode of Tactical Enlightenment. Our YouTube channel is dedicated to Bannerlord, and welcome back again to our Vlandian campaign. Our capital, I guess if you can call that. This is our only city that we've been voted for, Rovault. We have Tirby Castle as well, and we have the Western Empire encroaching here. Of course, the Batanians are in here as well, but the Western Empire has been a major threat in this campaign. And right before I gave the intro here, we spotted a couple large armies. Now, I want to go into the time lapse for this campaign, right? We're trying to push things along here. And look at this, right? The Aserai are major threats, and again, it's deja vu to the Aserai campaign. Our warmongerer, Thomond here, and the other Vlandian nobles, even though the tribute we would be paying to the Aserai would be very light, they refuse to give peace. So we're fighting three different kingdoms. Not terrific real politics here, right? This is a good way to get conquered. But evidently, they don't want peace. So we're being basically forced here to hold the northern quarter or northern third of the realm here. Now we've got, like I said, we've got Rovault and Tirby, but if they get to that stage where they're sieging Rovault, like, we're in trouble, right? That's deep into the heartland. And at least one of these armies is coming here to Ormondfard. So we're going to come here and defend, although they might just go right by us. We'll see here. 3 different armies coming in here. That's 3,000 plus Western Empire fucks. Fortunately, this is one of the strengths of my skill set, is siege, right? Now, this is one of the most difficult castles to defend, or at least highly unique castles to defend. I don't think this army, where'd the other army go? She just ditched us, I guess. We've been keeping this Verduna gal around. She's kind of an attractive looking gal. We've had her just attached to our army here now for about an hour and a half. And evidently, as soon as we got to the castle, she's like, fuck you, I'm not part of your army anymore. We're going to do what we want. Fortunately, though, she is part of the garrison, and we've got a nice Boeing 777 Dreamliner here ready to take on this Western Empire force. At least we've got a good-sized force here, because otherwise we might be in serious trouble. We might be in serious trouble anyways, right? Who knows what the AI is going to do? Remember, I only get to control I don't know how many units I'll get to control here. A couple 300 anyways. We're not going to be in charge with everybody. Now we're going to use our crossbow extensively in this campaign, but most of it, I would say 80% of the time, we'll use it in siege. There will be a time where we do some crossbow tactics for this campaign. We will actually play as part of a crossbow division on foot as a crossbow division in open field battles. We'll do some cool tactics. But of course, siege, you always want to have the ability to kill the enemy at range. Hence, Baron York has been skewering peasants with his crossbow for fun. Right after we sack a village, Baron York, all those that resisted him who are not dead, he ties them to a post and shoots them in the ball sack with his crossbow. Right, this guy. We continue to role play. You scum motherfucker. These peasants here. It's fun to play a bad guy, right? It's fun to role play. I will do a little character acting here, right? I'll try to get into character. You piece of shit fucking peasants, do what you're told. Die for the fucking cause here so that I can get rich and laid by my mistresses here, right? Well, we will role play a little bit and have some fun with this campaign as we build the storyline here. So Baron York is going to use his crossbow in siege, but a lot of it is just command. And if you want to learn siege, and this is like one of the first times you've seen an episode on Tactical Enlightenment, you are going to learn how to dominate siege. These castles are replicated, and what I mean by that is this layout. I think there's 3, 4, 5 Vlandian castles that have this exact layout, and look what we got going on here. You could put units on top of these fucking buildings, and there's a little ladder up there. The only way the enemy can get up there is climb that little ladder. It's almost kind of cheating. But it's sort of realistic to real life, right? You'd put guys on the roof and they'd have a parapet. I think in a real siege defense, you'd build cover for those guys on that roof so that they could fucking duck behind cover, reload their crossbow, and then skewer the attacker. Now, this is a problem. Anytime you're in castle defense and you're doing what we're doing here, which is 80% of our units, 70% of our units in the courtyard, you get, not only do you get a giant clusterfuck of units like this, but they also get jammed up on stairways because the AI is trying to go up them or trying to go down them. It's medieval rush hour, and there's a lot of people honking, namely Baron York. He's like, get the fuck up there, you serf peasants. Now this back area the enemy can access. They have I don't know, I guess I didn't look closely. They'll have a siege tower or ladders. They can get up this back access. So what we're going to do here is put an infantry division back here. I've got a shock troop division we might pull back there eventually, and one archer, one crossbow division. Unfortunately, you're going to hear me say archers a lot when I mean crossbow. This is the first time I've played a Vlandian campaign. Now these dipshit peasants are in such a throng over there I can't even get through. You stupid fucks. We're going to role play a little bit here. We'll have a little bit of profanity. My firefighter senses are switching in here. There's smoke here. We got some kind of issue. Something's on fire in here. I would be calling 911. I'd be calling for my ladder truck that I'm a part of on a regular basis. Okay, we got to destroy that siege tower over there. Now these catapults I don't think can get the angle on that catapult or on that siege tower. So we're gonna go see if the other this other side here, our left side here, can take out that siege tower. There is smoke in there. It's weird. There's like smoke in the gatehouse. And see, I think it's going to be too late over here. Although, okay, they have fireballs over here. At least maybe we can throw some. And we're going to be able to kill a lot of troops with these fireballs as well. Now, I didn't say that part, of course. We built these catapults at the beginning of a siege. If you're the siege master or whatever it is, the most senior noble, you get to basically choose what siege you build, right? And in most cases, I build 2 fire catapults, and then anything past that is gravy. If you have 2 fire catapults, you've got just a huge ability to do damage to your enemy, destroy siege weapons. That shot actually hit the siege tower, and it killed troops, right? You can get these well-placed shots where it hits down there, where the poor fucks are pushing along that gigantic siege tower. I don't think 6 guys could push that, but I don't know. I'm not a military engineer. I'm a firefighter engineer. That's for people who are curious. I am what's called the lieutenant/driver operator on a regular basis. I'm either in charge of a crew of 4, or I'll drive a ladder truck, a specialized 100-foot tall ladder truck. All right, that little tiny enrichment aside, let's see what we got going on here. We got slaughtered Vlandians, of course. This is the aforementioned AI that I was saying is trying to, they're in a hurry to get up here on the ramparts to get shot to death, and you can see the results. And we're going to have some fertilizer for our garden. Baron York has no problem using the dead in his garden, right? Or more accurately, ordering serfs to drag the carcasses of these worthless fucking Vlandian peasants and using their corpses in the garden. Human manure, so to speak. And that's, by the way, that's a thing. If you want to, if your imagination, you want to get a little creative with death. My mother-in-law, my wife's mother, was actually composted and essentially planted underneath a tree. It's kind of a new way to bury people. You compost them, you turn them into really rich soil, and then a lot of times they'll be like instead of a graveyard or whatever, they'll have basically a big forest, a big what's that called, an arboretum, right? Get the fuck out of here, Lord. There's like lords trying to push in here. We need forces up here. We can't let the Vlandians just push in, or the Western Empire push in here. Killed some lord. Oh shit! I hit that guy real hard. He went flying. They always want a piece of Baron York. Baron York is, of course, despised by everybody. Nobody likes Baron York, not even his wife. Maybe his companions like him because at least they get money and nice equipment, but everybody else despises Baron York. We're gonna love to hate Baron York, and at the same time, he's gonna play the hero. He's a little bit of the anti-hero. Let me finish that point. So instead of being buried in a graveyard, you can now just be compost for a tree, which I think is a really cool concept. Now, of course, I imagine Catholics or people who are devoutly religious are cringing, but I just think that's a good purpose. Ultimately, every single organism, including us on this planet, get eaten by another organism. I would rather myself that be a tree than a bunch of worms or whatever, maggots or whatever the hell happens in a coffin. That morbidity aside here, we are going to rant and ramble a little bit here. I should have said it earlier, strap yourself in, right? This effectively qualifies as Epic Siege. We're not going to release these episodes on a timeline so that it will come out on Saturday, so to speak, but we try to have one Epic Siege a week where it's either from this campaign, one of the challenges, my horse is running around here, or some other reason. We try to get one of these epic sieges going on here, and this qualifies, right? When you're up against 3,000 plus, you've got a large defense force, you've got all these options as a commander. In fact, here's a cool option here. Look at the enemies coming in, these two different locations. The back area, it doesn't look like they have access. I don't know if the siege tower got destroyed or what, but there's nobody coming in through the back. So we're going to bring infantry here, blockade this back area. We've got some magical architecture here. We've got floating rocks, little visual artifacts. Get out of here. This is our fucking castle. Shoot some guys in the face here. And now what we've done is we've added another savage angle for archers with infantry support as well. We can bring this division up, attack the guys that are on the walls here whenever the fuck they get here. They will get shot a little bit here, but there's enough cover there, and these are infantrymen. You can't jump down in this castle. It's a little bit awkward. But the enemy looks like they're trying to rally a bunch of troops here before they charge our courtyard. We're not going to let them, right? We're at least going to actively try to resist that fact, even though Baron York is a little bit of a bitch, and I don't have a shield, right? So that's the sacrifice I'm making in these sieges, right? I've got javelins, but as soon as your javelins are expelled, suddenly I just have a shield, right? And then you have the best of both worlds. Now the front gate is clogged to death. It's actually clogged negatively, and what I mean by that is the AI is jamming themselves in there, and that's a lot of the death. Those guys are getting slaughtered there. Of course, our division here is getting slaughtered as well. I had these guys attack just to push the Vlandians off the walls a little bit, but I don't want these guys to stay here. In fact, I don't remember what the original size of that division was, but it was bigger than 7, right? And that shows you how ineffective it is to get down there. I'm trying to stick a division down the stairs here. Those guys will actually climb down and stand at the bottom of that ladder, and then you're an enemy force trying to get to them. Imagine that. You're getting shot by crossbow, and at the bottom of a ladder, there's guys entrenched swinging pole arms at you and shit like that. It's a pretty nasty combination. Now, Baron York already has really good armor, and of course I say already because this will probably be episode 4 or 5 of the campaign, but this campaign's been going on about 20 hours. Anybody watching, if I haven't, well, I know I've said it before, but just in case you haven't heard that, we're jumping into this campaign a little bit like mid to early game of the campaign. It's not early campaign for sure. Part of the reason I did that is the DLC, right? I don't want this campaign to be 70 episodes. Part of the reason I did that is the first 10 hours, 5 hours of a Bannerlord campaign are a little bit boring. usually I will say that, and again, I'll give one more punt. Maybe this will be the last time I do it. I did record most of the action of the first 10 hours or so of the campaign, and it's worth watching. Now, part of the reason I'm doing that is it's essentially a commercial. I'm pumping up the Patreon channel. Those who want to support me on the Patreon channel, those episodes are available there exclusively. They may eventually come to YouTube, especially if you guys, you guys are just overly boisterous and must see this shit. I will probably eventually load those on. But as a thank you to the Patreon members, I do things like that from time to time for their generous contributions towards the channel. For those curious, I'm making about $50 a month on Patreon, so I can afford to take the wife to a restaurant once a month, and then I can only have an entree, or I can only have the starters. I can't afford an entree. That's your inflation today. Anyways, that whole thing aside, if you want to see more from this campaign, if you want to see the sort of the growing up of Baron York from level, I think we started at level 3 or something like that, you can find it on Patreon. You can join Patreon for as little as $2 a month, and enough shameless plugging of my Patreon channel here. Let's get back to tactics. So the gate, we've got a square waiting down there, and I've got 3 different... Look at this lazy fuck. Baron York wants to kill lazy fucks like that. You're lucky I'm out of ammo. I would have shot that guy to death for standing there like a dipshit. We've got a square down there ready to go. We've got a shock troop division, and we have 4 archer divisions. Now I'm going to continue to throw rocks. Look at this shit. There's a beautiful pile of rocks here. We've got the enemy penned up at these 2 locations because for whatever reason, siege tower destroyed or whatever, they're not using our back door, right? We're experiencing a positive outcome, the opposite of prison, right? Nobody's coming through our back door here, and that's going to make this siege a lot easier. It still may be difficult. I'm looking up at the power bar right now as I chuck these rocks mindlessly. Guys are getting killed right next to me. It doesn't look good, right? It definitely looks like it's going to be a grueling siege here. And again, every once in a while I'll do this as well. I'll remind you that I do these one shot. We're not save scumming in this campaign. Rarely on the channel do we save scum. I like losses actually to be part of the campaign. That doesn't mean I'm trying to lose. That just means that if we have losses that are interesting, and I'll clarify that. If we have a loss where we just get annihilated by the enemy, if it's a siege like this and we just get blown out and I fuck up or something like that, you'll probably never see it. I might tell you about it, but I'm not going to waste your time showing you just a sad loss. Unless it has dramatic effects on the campaign, right? Unless someone's killed or it's a disastrous battle for us, you will see those kind of losses. However, you are going to see battle losses in this campaign. It's part of Bannerlord. Even with my experience level, that kind of shit still happens, and I like that, right? Because you get a little bit of suspense. You guys can never be sure, watching sieges, watching episodes, watching Baron York, if he's going to get killed in this battle or the next battle, because we are playing it. We're letting the chips fall where they may, as the saying goes. Now, again, these Vlandians are actually in my way. These guys, ostensibly, they're here to help us with this siege defense, but they're in the way. Oh, shit. Oops, I just fat-fingered that. Get back there. You really want those guys spread out there. They're in a brilliant position, right? They're shooting down over the enemy. But these fucking Vlandians at the gate here, there's actually so many of them that I'm just like the rest of us, in line to get my sandwich or whatever at lunchtime, and there's a guy in front of me fucking can't decide, and you just want to kick him in the back and be like, get the fuck out of the way. Some of the rest of us would like to eat too. These Vlandians are basically fucking with our plan here. And again, I don't have any control over them, right? We're a vassal still. Some circumstances you're in control of everybody. Like if you're in charge of the whole army, you have all the units, but in this case we're not. Now, here's a couple things I can mention. These crossbow divisions were doing this for a couple reasons. You're going to see me act like an asshole with Baron York. That's why I tried to kick that guy that was in my way. These guys here, they were in a shield wall. Oh shit, I just fucked it up. I was trying to show you how sophisticated the channel is, and we just butchered it. All right, so this 8th Corps, I'm going to just put these guys in a shield wall, and I will show you this up close. This is something that I think is really beneficial. You notice how tight this courtyard is, right? We need to get as much firepower in here as possible, as many of these crossbow. Well, you see them holding up their shields like that as we straighten out that 2nd division. They won't shoot with their shields up. So if you put them in a shield wall, they'll be nice and tight like that, but they won't shoot. So what you do is you do line formation and then instantly tell them to stop, and they all pull their little crossbow out and start shooting. It's kind of a nice little tip to compact some firepower into a narrow space. Now these rocks here are just gold, right? Look at this. There's a fucking giant cruise line ship, Zerg of fucks, and I recognize some of you guys probably take cruise lines. My wife and I are going to take our first Viking cruise here in a year or so. We're going to go to Europe and pillage some cathedrals, right? Do some agnosticism. No, I digress. We're going to go there and worship some of the beautiful architecture you guys have in Europe. I live in America, so everything here is dismally ugly. It's built for efficiency and capitalism, and we have like no culture, evidently. People are getting offended. The subscriber count's going down left and right. We'll start talking about some communism here soon, and some theater shootings, you know, and we'll keep things lively here and lose subscribers left and right. Those of you, the enthusiasts I do have, though, I appreciate that you guys just let me run my mouth here. And of course, we're not going to get into communism. It's looking good, but it's still worrisome that these guys here are... They're basically impeding our siege defense. You see those Vlandian fucks in the way there? Our archers, crossbow, I knew I was going to do it. Our crossbow can't shoot. I don't even mind killing that guy there. Right? We've got this 4th division up there, and I keep stealing from these units because we don't have very many infantry at this stage. We have the big square at the gate, but I don't have a lot of backup contingency plans here if there's a breach. And that's the numero uno thing that will cost you a siege in this situation, is a huge breach. If the enemy pours through 500 guys through the front gate, you might as well just lay down because you're not going to recover. Now, we've almost got line of sight here, but there's still like 15 Surf Vlandians that are still fighting. Up there, they continue to try to rally, but we have so many crossbows shooting them that they don't really seem to be able to build up a sizable force. We can attack them periodically with the 4th Division here and try to pinch them. And what happens is basically the chaos of battle. They stop holding their shields to fight those guys, and then of course they're more vulnerable. We can smoke some of them. But we don't have enough infantry to consistently do this, right? We're going to have to kind of play it by ear. And now the gate is starting to get opened up. And what I mean by that is not blown open, but the AI is no longer in the way of the gate, right? We're going to be able to start commencing mass murder here. Because there's only a handful of AI Vlandian units still at the gate. I'm going to help these guys out here just a little bit. I'm an amateur at crossbow, you know, but the more I play it, of course, the better I get. I imagine by the end of the campaign, we're going to be a pretty good sharpshooter. In the military, I was a sharpshooter. I wasn't sophisticated, but I had really good aim. So we'll see how much that translates to. The crossbow is very awkward, how he reaches down and shit like that. And I guess theoretically I should be turning my back on the enemy, but of course they're not shooting at us here. You would do that so that your shield absorbs arrow shots, javelins, and whatnot. I think if I start doing that, you guys are going to log off quickly because it'll make you dizzy. I'm already aware that the guy moves around and he reloads and shit like that. It's already a little bit jarring. And of course I'm trying not to make you guys sick here as we progress through this. Now, I can't see shit in here. There's still like a fire or something in the gatehouse. I don't know what's going on. But at least we have the ability to reload there, the crossbows. Now this is, I think it's ready here. All we have to do now is move this over. And this is really, you know, once I started to figure this out, this really is the master key to siege defense, right? You have a block of infantry. There's about 50 guys there. You see some of my banner knights. There's still allies in the way here. I'm really tempted just to gun them down like a total sadist. I mean, we got that guy. That was sort of by accident. I say sort of. Because as soon as the enemy starts pouring through here, it's going to be insta-death for their army, right? They are going to die in incredible waves. We've got that same lord that Baron York has been sort of simping for. Although I guess if we're going to roleplay Baron York, he doesn't simp, right? He just aggressively hits on women and probably does some other chicanery that wouldn't be legal today. Now, what the fuck are you guys doing? You bitches weren't told to charge. You got to micromanage sometimes. Your units, I want these crossbows to get back because this will happen, right? The enemy is like, oh good, archers to kill, and they will come up here and charge them. We can't afford to lose our precious archers here. We might even have to use those crossbows as a square if this square starts to get beat down. They're back at least in good position. That upper area, sometimes they're coming down the stairs, but they're getting smoked. The enemy really doesn't know what to do about that side. I am keeping the infantry division down here basically ready to jam the stairs if they charge down as well. If they start to come down this right side, we'll have to get creative. And one of the options we have is pulling back into the further courtyard. That's one of the beautiful parts about Bannerlord, is you, the commander, once you have fluid control over your units, you have all kinds of capacity to do savage tactics. And you're really only limited by your imagination and what the system will allow you to, where it'll allow you to place them. And this castle, that poor woodrunner is like, I got a shot, or a shot right in the face with a savage crossbow bolt. And you see why this is so effective. The enemy's starting to come in now, and look at just focus on where the arrows and bolts are coming from. Every fucking direction. The enemy's trying to shoot at us from the wall. They have no chance. And we've got about 80 crossbow trained on this front door. And the sequence here is essentially you let them come in and get massacred, and if the enemy rushes in, every once in a while they'll just pour through and try to attack your other units. You simply move that square in front of the gate, and it'll stem the tide of the enemy. It won't stop it completely, but it's like jamming your finger into a hole, like in an inflatable something or other. It stops it pretty thoroughly. So I've got this 4th Division. I don't think the enemy's going to circle behind us here, so I'm just going to jam up the stairs here so they have no ability to rush down the courtyard except that far right side, and we'll have time to adjust for that. Yeah, that's super awkward for you fellas. I'm just not going to be able to do this. You want to use the first-person perspective when you have the option, because of course you can aim a lot better. You can zoom and shoot dudes right in the face. But I think I think you guys will get dizzy or sick or just annoyed one way or the other, so we will probably limit how much we do that. And I don't really need to do much here, right? We might even start fast forwarding this siege, because barring some unexpected occurrence, we got this shit, right? The enemy's now down to middle tiered units, middle and lower tier, really. I see some tier 3 and 4 still coming through, but most of these are lower tiered units, and they're in a firing squad, right? They're just not getting through. If the enemy had 3 routes of access here, they might be able to overwhelm us, but right now I feel like we're on top of this. And my character, with such good armor, right, is getting flicked for very little damage, right? It's like 8 and 6 and 3, and with that, almost 330 athleticism, it's just incredible how durable your characters become. And of course, we have a decreased melee taken banner as well. The guys who are like, I get insta-killed in battle. Well, we've created guides for it, but this is really your answer, right? You want to boost your athleticism. Even if you don't go to 330, just try to get above 300, and your character would be much, much harder to kill. Are they routing? They kind of look like they're routing. I won't be surprised if the enemy routes. That looks like they're routing. At least some troops are trying to rout. They're starting to send up peasants and just being smoked. That top area is becoming kind of a threat. My lord, more enemies are approaching. Oh shit, I totally forgot this part. And this is the first time I've seen it in Siege. For those that have used the reinforcement mod before but haven't used it recently, the creators of it, these, just brilliant software writers, these guys are making adjustments to it where the enemies have now joined a siege, right, with reinforcements, which is a really interesting aspect. In fact, I think, for a little while, I'm going to leave this mod active and just sort of beta test it, so to speak, in this campaign. I've mentioned it a few times before that this campaign, at this stage of the campaign, these battles are not do or die, right? Our kingdom is pretty strong. Our character, even if it gets captured, it's no big deal. Early on here, we're going to fight these battles. I've been saying it in some of the previous episodes, like our hair's on fire, which is basically a metaphor. We're going to play, with poor decision making, or at least sort of fast decision making, right? We're going to play these fast and loose because losses are not going to be the end of the world. It'll be more interesting for you fellas. We're going to take some chances. We're going to do some audacious shit. And this reinforcement mod makes it even harder, right? Because now you're going to add unknown variables. We had a battle with the reinforcement. In fact, it was just the last episode, or an hour ago, hour and a half ago, where huge amounts of the enemies poured in with the reinforcement mod, but then they fled. They all fled. There was like 600 or 700 enemies charging us on the battlefield, and for some reason or other, the AI couldn't figure it out, routed off the field, even though they had us outnumbered like 6-1, and that was that. So now that we have it in siege, and in fact, look at these troops that just came to the line. Those are high-level troops. We've got ourselves a problem here. Or at least I'm concerned. Look at our power bar. We have a tiny little fleck of red. The enemy's starting to stack up here. I'm starting to run low on infantry too, right? I've got about 50, 60 infantry. The second has a mix. Maybe we have 65, 70 infantry. We're going to have to make it, we're going to have to stretch it here and make it work. Now, the death spam is great, right? The crossbows are still doing their work. Crossbow is deadly in siege. I wish, you know, we had skirmishers and other units, but the Vlandian crossbow really make up for it. Now, this is, they have elite units here coming in, and this is reinforcements. That's got to be what this is, right? Because we were just down to tier 3 and tier 4 units, so who knows how many more enemy forces are coming. And unlike that open field battle where they kind of fled, these guys are not fleeing, right? They're out for blood. I don't know. I didn't see who joined the battle, but the reinforcement mod's got, you know, it's got elements of variability to it that are really unique. You can actually set the settings so that units are more likely to join battle even if the odds are against them, and you can also adjust some of the settings where it affects things like how far they're able, the system basically allows them to join the battle. Part of the reason I like the reinforcement system, besides the fact that it's going to add a huge level of variability to the campaign, to battles, is that it's realistic, right? If you see a siege by the enemy, usually, you know, you get the message, so-and-so, Ortesia or whatever's under siege. Usually, if you have a decent defense force, I would say you have between 4 and maybe as much as 10 days to get yourself to that castle or city to defend. And meanwhile, if you siege somewhere, the enemy usually has like a day or two. Because when you begin the assault, right, when you, the Western Empire at this stage of the castle siege is in the assault stage where they're actively trying to kill us. When you do that yourself, it's instant. The enemy in vanilla Bannerlord can't join. Well, with the reinforcement mod, now they can join after you're already sieging them, which is a great addition. Although, again, I'm a little concerned about how it's working. I don't know if you can see it out there, but there's hundreds of Western Empire forces that really do look like they're out there. Pick up this shit. They look like shit. They look like they're out there staged for a picture or something like that, like a cutscene. They're wrapped around in a big arc. There's hundreds of guys at this siege tower. The front door, they're kind of trickling through. And meanwhile, there's, you know, 300 or 400 Western Empire forces kind of in a big half circle around the castle. Not quite sure if that's the reinforcement mod or some other reason. But of course, optimally here, the enemy would just charge in. You know, and once in a while I'll do this. If I was a player, you send all of your units through the gate in a square. You ignore the gate completely, right? If the enemy was putting in a square like we're doing here, you just send all your troops in. And then, of course, as soon as you had a huge amount of troops in the courtyard, you attack everything, right? You would send 8 different divisions, 8 different ways or whatever, right? You basically would try to overwhelm everything. The AI rarely does that. We got some... You guys being naughty again. You guys dismembering people. That's very fucking savage, you fellas. No teabagging, you fucking dismembering, ruthless troops here, right? They're emulating their commander, I guess. Man, they just continue to pour up this siege tower. And they're starting to push towards us, right? I'm really starting to get low on infantry here. If they do charge collectively, we're going to be in trouble, right? They must have 500, 600, 700 troops out there still. But we do have, you know, the core defenses are still there. We probably have 80 to 100 crossbow. We've got them really bound up there. The AI doesn't know what to do. A player wouldn't know what to do, right? You would have to just rush in. But of course, you'd be getting shot the whole time. Yeah, they're standing out there. And we may do some after editing for some of these, right? This has been an interesting siege, and of course I've had to talk about a few things that I, more accurately, I've wanted to talk about a few things in the campaign. Actually, there they go. You know, such as Patreon, and also just things like the reinforcement mod. We will continue to cover mods in this campaign. A lot of guys, you know, probably the most asked question that I don't answer, and it's not because I don't want to answer your guys' question, but like every other day I get, what are your favorite mods and stuff like that. And I have talked about mods extensively, but I don't think I'm going to be making, you know, what are my top favorite mods episode. Not unless there's just an enormous cry for it from you fellas. I do talk about the mods that I like on a regular basis during the episodes, and I don't know you know, if there's a lot of value for you guys and for me of having like a 20 or 30 minute episode of mods that I like. That said, of course, this is your opportunity to leave feedback right in the comments section. Feel free to like and or make your own comment saying, yeah, well, I want to know more about your favorite mods, and I will be compelled to do so, right? I'm here for you fellas. Of course, you guys patronizing the channel. Well, great skill upgrades here for that castle, right? We lost a single companion because, again, we've spec'd out our companions to fight at range, and here again it pays huge dividends. Not only did they rack up the kills, but most of them survived, right? We only had one guy get dropped, and because of that, of course, they're gaining massive skill points. You want to get high-level companions in your army, high-level children, etc., you're in the right place, right? We're going to be helping you with that process. Now, I'm going to take all these troops here and just dump them in the garrison, right? There's some non-Vlandian units here. I'm tempted to do the prisoners too, but that would take a long time. We're not concerned about money, if you can't tell at this stage. We have plenty of money, and battles are going to be so frequent. We're going to have so much loot. It's going to be, you know, jingling and jangling, clanking and clanging in wagging trains of loot behind our army. All right, so I think we'll do a little bit of editing here, show you the loot real quick, and we've got to dump a bunch of troops here in this castle before it's on to the next battle. Get a little autosave and we will move on. That garrison stocked up pretty well now. 187 troops. Let's see if we can... How come she's not part of the army here again? Okay, she's with us. You're not getting out of here. Yeah, it's been a while. It's been 20 seconds, dude. Come with us. In fact, we captured your friend too, you dipshit. Come with us, stupid ass helmet. Western Empire, sieging our castles, and then you're all polite. It's been a while. It's nice to see you. Yeah, well, have some chains, you dipshit. We're going to tote him to our next victim here. We're going to look for more combat. And since it may take a little while, right, you just never know. I might have to interrupt myself. Let's do a little discussion about mods here, right? In other words, I will talk, and I guess you guys can listen. And of course, always feel free to make comments, criticisms, give suggestions. I do read 99% of the comments, and I would say I reply to as many as I can, right? There was a stage where I was getting 200 comments a day, and as much as that's flattering, it's also overwhelming, right? It reminds me of when I was a kid. I would hear stories of like a Nolan Ryan gets 10,000 letters a day from kids wanting autographs. Obviously, our channel's still small, but 200 comments a day, especially thoughtful, well-written comments, it's difficult to respond to. What do we got going on here? There's 2,000 Battanian forces sieging there, but one of the forces just looks like they're sitting outside. It's kind of odd looking. Now, whatever you do, don't defend, Aserai. There's a city right next to this guy, and he scurries away in shame to attack a castle somewhere else. That would get you blacklisted, right, by some king. If one of your cities is under siege, and your commander's like, well, let's go sack a castle somewhere. Now, see these guys here? It says they're sieging, but they don't have a little tent, and they're just kind of sitting to the side. Sometimes you get strange behavior like this from the AI, so I can't tell if they have 700 troops. Of course, we don't want to get ambushed and captured here. I think we will try to sneak in anyways. Again, you lose the 30 or 40, 50 troops. But if we can get in, if both of those Battanian forces are attacking, I guess they'll have about 2,000. We can definitely handle that if we sneak in. Now, we'll talk about mods during the defense of Pancanak here. This is a very difficult, or at least a unique... They're all somewhat unique, but this is an oddball city for sure to try to defend. So we'll talk initially about the defense of the city, and then if we get to the stage like that last castle where there's just 8 minutes of executing the enemy, yeah, there's only 700. I don't understand what's going on in here. So we'll take our chances here. We can take 2,000 too. So it's, what the fuck? How can it be 3,200? What is this shit? Are they like hiding behind that? I mean, it's okay. In fact, actually, it's just fine, right? It's more Battanians to capture if we're successful. But I don't understand what's going on here. They have a huge amount of troops that are not visible, right? My math is decent, and that's 2,000 units, and somehow they have 3,200. So they must have some clones. This is Attack of the Clones or some shit in this battle. Damn, they're not giving us time again. This stage of Bannerlord is a challenge for me as a tactician, because if you can set up your troops before the battle starts, you've got a huge advantage. This is a major advantage for us as commanders. But we've gotten adept at splitting our units with F3, F5. It's a tier 1 city. I think this city's been under siege like the whole fucking campaign. The Battanians, of course, started with it. The Western Empires owned it. The Aserai actually owned this city briefly. Now the Western Empire, it's basically every kingdom seems like they're owning it. This is the village prostitute. Everybody's using it and abusing it. And of course, accordingly, all the walls are just falling to pieces and shit. I think I hear siege. I don't know if that's our siege or theirs, but that's concerning, right? Because I think I just saw siege too. So we may have a bigger challenge here than I realized. But if we get a moment during this siege defense, I will talk about mods. I'll probably talk about mods anyways. Because when I was saying there, I'm probably not gonna do an episode. This is an easy way for me to do it here, right? In between fire and catapults, we will talk about some of the mods that I find indispensable. In other words, that I won't play Bannerlord without anymore. And then also it's just some of my favorite, 8 to 10 mods. I only use about 10 to 12, 15 mods at most during campaigns. I know some guys do like 150. I just get so concerned about crashes and what do you call that word? I was going to say contradictions, but basically conflicts, right? Where your mods basically break each other or break a save game. I'm very hesitant to do stuff like that. Right? So we also trying to keep the game somewhat native for for the fellas that are on the console. I played A Realm of Thrones extensively, and I was kind of overwhelmed by it. Not the difficulty so much as just the variety of different units, the lore, all the different named characters, and I had some balance issues. Just using sort of vanilla Realm of Thrones, I built an army within about, 6-7 hours of gameplay that just destroyed everything. Like armies that were 3 or 4 times our size. So we shall see if we do a full Realm of Thrones playthrough. That may be coming in the future, especially as they work out some of the kinks, or maybe I learn what to avoid. Now we've got a beautiful location here. We've got a fucking fire catapult. We're getting blasted by counter siege, but we're going to be able to destroy their siege tower and then rain holy hell on these Battanians. So right away, let's just go with numero uno mod that I won't play Bannerlord with anymore. That is very simple. One mod, gun to my head, is the RTS mod. This mod is so useful in so many different ways. And it has, I think, the feature that most players want out of vanilla Bannerlord the most. When you go down as a commander without the RTS mod, you're basically just left watching the AI clusterfuck their way through battles. It's so bad that if you're in charge of an army and you go down early in a battle, most of the time you're going to lose, right? Unless you're obviously hugely favored, in which case you probably shouldn't be going down early. But because the AI is so unpredictable, the ability to jump into a new character and continue. Look at this shit. We've got some more floating architecture here. The ability to control a unit after your main character gets killed, which is often, right? Even in this campaign, of course, I've been decked 4, 5, 6 times already. It's going to happen a lot, especially if you're a newer player. The ability to speed up the game too, right? When you're chasing down those last 2 step bandits, when it's instant almost, when you can do the 3x speed with the RTS mod, incredibly invaluable. And then of course the overhead, flying over the battlefield to learn tactics, to understand the game better. As a content creator, all the cutscenes you see me making, almost all anyways, are using the RTS mod, the slow-mo, the overhead views, the panning features. It's an incredible mod, and it's utterly indispensable now for my Bannerlord experience. Jesus, we're getting pelted up here by archers. Guys are getting killed left and right, but siege tower's destroyed, and I'm feeling comfortable about this siege. Comfortable enough still to continue to talk. Now, look at how crazy chaotic this siege is. It really feels like the fort in Waterworld. There's all these wooden ramps, chaotic wooden ramps to nowhere. It's hard to. It would be easy to get lost in this city, and this is tier 1, right? It's going to get even more complicated when it gets higher level. We got a lord down there by herself, just trying to look tough. So that's number one. The RTS mod is number one. Now I'm not gonna. Oh shit! I almost got hit in the back. I'm not gonna rate the rest. And the reason is because I don't want to offend a mod maker. I know some mod makers, right, that frequent the channel, and I don't want to, you know, be like, well, who's your favorite son? You have a Thanksgiving. Who's your favorite kid? And you got your 7 kids there, and they're all staring at you nervously. We're not going to do that. I will tell you though that there are, you know, 8, 10, 12 mods that I will very eagerly endorse. Including some mods that we're going to use in this campaign that I can't tell you about right now. And I will explain that, of course, later on. It will make more sense. All right, so let me just, off the top of my head, some mods that I love for Bannerlord that I find nearly essential for great gameplay. So the Dismemberment mod is great, right? Bannerlord's a violent game. You got guys swinging swords and axes at each other. To have arms get ripped off and guys get beheaded by a savage glaive shot. The visual effects are great. The slow-mo is great. You can configure it completely to your desires. I just find it to be one of the best aesthetic mods for Bannerlord. Fucking medieval violence. Medieval battles were violent, right? I don't... and of course I do recognize there's some children that play, and I do recognize also some people don't like a lot of violence. That's fine. I like the realism level. I don't need to see guys, you know, struggling with their bowels hanging out and all the real horrific shit you would see in warfare. It was much worse than like the you know, the Dismemberment mod would ever possibly show. We don't need soldiers of fortune kind of gore here. But I think the Dismemberment mod is both tasteful enough and realistic enough that it's well worth your time. A couple other sort of visual enhancement mods I really like. It's called, let's see if I can make sure I get all these right in Still Command. We've got a little bit of a breach here as the Battanians send a vanguard through the front door, but hopefully I don't have to show you so much of the tactics here again. We've got both places really traffic jammed up. In fact, I have too many infantry here. We have a large defense force, and again, the enemy only has 2 accesses. With 800, 900 troops, it's actually pretty hard to lose a siege like this. I won't curse us and say you can't lose, but look at how narrow that doorway is. Right, this city is probably the narrowest doorway of any I've ever seen. And I think it's just unique here to this city. It's almost like they made all the rest of the defenses of this city kind of wonky and difficult, but the door is just, you know, good luck getting through there. It's like 5 feet, 4 feet wide, whereas most other doors are like twice that wide. Where was I going? Okay, so it's called Immersive Battlefields. Throw some rocks here while we talk about our mods. Immersive Battlefields is one of those mods that kind of is not real obvious for you fellas that are watching this, but it's a big part of the game. And the first thing it does is your captains repeat your order in their own voice, right? So if you have a female captain and you yell charge, a second or 2 later she's like, charge, men, charge. And of course I'm not going to pull off my female voice. But you get all these different voices added to the battle. The enemy commanders yell that shit, right? Which is a little bit of an advantage as a player, because of course you can hear what the enemy's doing. They're yelling charge or whatnot. That would be realistic, right? You could actually hear the enemy commanders, assuming you could understand their language in real life. You would hear them say, "Get back, man!" And of course you don't have that with vanilla. You do with this immersive battlefield mod. By the way, most of the mods, how come I can't shoot this? Most of the mods, I wonder if these rocks are just sitting there. If a guy is carrying them and he sits them there, he gets shot and they fall there, you actually can't shoot it. It's just sort of like a artificial visual effect. So the immersive battlefields, right? You also get horns when the enemy charges with a bunch of units. There'll be this loud horn playing in the this horn blares in the background. Very realistic, right? Horns were a common use in medieval, all the way up to the Civil War, right? And relatively modern warfare as a way to communicate. You'd blow the bugle for the cavalry to charge, and then there'd be a different type of bugle for them to pull back, right, after they made their attack. So that's another nice part of it. The last thing that Immersive Battlefields does, and maybe there's more, but the last thing that I can remember is that the troops roar. When you charge with an infantry division, shit, of 150, look at there's the armor, by the way. A direct shot by a glaive or whatever, a Rumfai did 30 damage. That like one-shots you when you're a new person, new character. It just shows you the power of strong armor. I digress. So, oh shit, my horse just charged the enemy. Let's, fuck it. We got a half a power bar. Let's play like a maniac in this battle. Again, RTS mod, right? I can just pick up another unit here, and frankly, we've got the enemy in a kill box. They're fucked. I've got that crossbow division just holding a shield wall. They don't even need to do that, but we've got so many units they can just play defensive. So again, to finish that point, I know my mind is jumping all over the place. That's the nature of this kind of narration, right? When you have a battle actively going and you're trying to talk about other stuff, you're going to have to forgive me. Or you can just log off, right? I don't often say fuck off to people watching videos on the channel. And of course, I'm never going to say that directly. But if you don't like the channel, that's the beauty of YouTube, right? And guys sometimes are like, would you please not swear I would watch your channel? I'm like, hey man, there's dozens of great YouTube channels. I'm happy to list them for you of guys who never swear at all. And I have no problem with people saying I shouldn't swear. If that's your belief. Some guys are like, my children are watching. I'm like, well, maybe they shouldn't be watching people be dismembered. Maybe they mean they're 15, 16-year-olds where it's a little bit more age appropriate. But if you don't like what you're seeing or hearing, I mean, the bottom line is I'm trying to be authentic on YouTube. I'm not, just here cursing like a stupid motherfucker. We're going to gangster motherfucking kill some bitches. I'm not going to be just insanely profane, but we're gonna just be ourselves here on the channel. It's easy and comfortable for me that way here, right? I'm not trying to fake who I am. Now, I digress. So, Immersive Battlefield, your troops will roar when they charge, right? And this is, to me, this is a great effect. I'm getting a little cocky here because this siege is basically over. And I want to cut down some peasants. They have a bunch of archers out here, though, so, oh shit, I might get killed. Go, 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 go. Immersive Battlefield is a great mod, though. Your troops all roar, and it's a huge element of realism. And it sort of springs your own emotions when like 300 or 400 troops roar. Of course, it helps if you have a strong sound system. I think I have 500 voice channels or something like that, whatever that means. So basically, there's a huge cacophony of different roaring, and frankly, it gets my blood going, right? It gets my juices stirring because it feels like a real battle, right? All of a sudden, charge, and all these people roar. I just think it's a great mod. So we're going through kind of slowly here. Let's do some more visual effects, right? The realistic weather mod. That is active, of course. The sandstorms are unbelievable with the realistic weather mod. Now, they're rare. They're a little bit more rare than I'd like to see, but that's also realistic, right? You would not be... I don't think they fought in the sand very much at all anyways. But there may almost have never been a battle in a sandstorm because nobody would enjoy it. You wouldn't be able to see shit. But it's an amazing, beautiful visual effect. If you haven't seen a sandstorm, of course, the Aserai campaign had a few, or you can just Google it on YouTube. That comes from the realistic weather mod. Also, the realistic weather mod has gnarlier thunderstorms, more rain, like driving rain, has fog, has mist, has other effects that are not quite as obvious with the base game. Now, I think I read that they were going to make significant weather changes to the DLC, so maybe the realistic weather mod won't be as necessary in the future. But in the short term, I find it almost indispensable, right? I could play a campaign without it, but it's so much more interesting when you get a thunderstorm in a battle, right? We've had some epic sieges where it's thunder and lightning crackling and guys are charging the walls. It just makes it so cinematic, right? It just feels like fucking Helm's Deep. Hey, fucker. I'm down to a quarter health here. But this siege is kind of dragging on. And, I think some of these here, and I'm almost speaking to my future self, we may do a little bit of editing here. I'm going to talk about 2 more mods, and then if this siege still isn't over, we will do some editing, right? Some more on sort of the visual slash battle size or battle feel effect, right? One of them that I think is important is called random bodies. I think that's the name of the mod. Again, you can ask questions, but what random bodies does is every unit on the battlefield is unique. And what I mean by that is they're different sizes. Somehow that the coding is brilliant coding. And again, you wish it was part of the vanilla game. All the units are different sized. Some of them are shorter and fatter, taller. So you get different sized crossbowmen. And they have unique faces, beards, mustaches, etc. It adds an enormous amount of variability to the game. as I just leisurely explore the city here. And I think it's not indispensable again, but it's tremendously valuable, right? Instead of 600 units charging into the battlefield and it looks like Attack of the Clones, they really do all look unique, right? Now, granted, the armor and a lot of the uniforms are the same, but that was the case oftentimes in war, right? You'd wear a very similar uniform. What you wouldn't have is it looked like 600 twins charging on the battlefield. The random bodies is a great mod for that effect. The last one I'll mention here, because this siege is dragging on, is it's called Perfect Fire Arrows. Again, you're not going to fight at night very often, but it is fucking epic, right? Flaming arrows, you get flaming crossbow bolts, and again, we will highlight that from time to time. A little bit of quick editing here. I was going to say a little bit of quick editing, and sorry that was a little bit painful. As the content creator, you're always, you know, trying to decide what you should edit out. We'll see. I'll probably let this one go here. In fact, I'm going to execute some of these retreating peasant Battanian fucks. We're going to do some swearing and some violence here. Don't let your kids watch. A little bit of war crime here. You know, this is an adult YouTube channel. Now, again, we're not going to be racist. We're not going to have any attacks on people. I'm not going to be saying, like, fuck Palestinians or fuck Jews or anything like that, although I guess I just did. What I mean is I won't be taking sides. I won't be doing any racism, although quit fucking fighting, right? I'm speaking broadly general to the world. Everybody just needs a copy of Bannerlord. Let's get Netanyahu a copy of Bannerlord. Let's get, you know, all these fucking countries that are still out there engaging in medieval warfare, and they can commit some war atrocities at the end of battle, and let's leave fucking innocent people alone, right? Whether it's people on the Gaza Strip or other places. I mean, for fuck's sakes, people, it's the 21st century, and of course I recognize you guys have nothing to do with it, but I'm just spouting off here a little bit. I'm fucking sick to death of real life war, and have been lucky enough to not really be involved in it. It's just frustrating to see. And of course, I know there's plenty of guys who are like, war's never going away, right? We're a violent species. As long as there's territory, power, etc., people are going to fight over it. I know. I get it. I get all that shit. I'm an old philosophic fella, but it just fucking sickens me to see innocent people being killed. We're going to kill some innocent peasants here. Damn, there's karma for you. We lost one of our best companions. That is from another mod. I'll mention that since we're at the end of the episode here. We have a mod that increases death for nobles in the game, right? You get knocked unconscious in battle, and your odds of dying are higher, and this is one of the results, right? We lose one of our higher level companions. Fortunately, right, we've got 7 other companions, right? Just like that guy said, that the guy that was injured in the eye in the 300 series. Oh man, your eye. And he's like, yeah, well, fortunately, God blessed me with a spare, right? We've got more companions, no big deal. Well, we'll just have to go acquire more. We'll take some forest bandits, right? We're going to take some bandits into our army here. We're just not going to take, you know, Battanians and stuff like that. No wild ones. All right, so wrap up 2 big sieges here. And again, trying to fortify the land here so we could do our time warp. You know, hopefully those 2 sieges are beneficial for you guys. I know we make it casual on the channel. Of course, if you're still struggling with siege defense, you know, you're in the right place. We literally have dozens of videos of siege defense. In fact, it's very possible that the city or castle you're trying to defend, we have a guide specifically for it, which will give you basically handcrafted recipe to make your own destructive siege defense. These siege defenses are not foolproof. How do all the rats get out of the cage here and kill these Battanians? Oh shit, they're like charging me. They got enough to retreat, and then they're... What's happening here? Who are they attacking? They're attacking somebody. There's one... This is Baron York for me. There's one Vlandian here. He's going to run to the safety of the city. He's bold until he's going to get obviously captured. Although, how many is that? It's like 600-700 Battanians. You know what? Let's fight them. Fuck them. Let's play with our hair on fire here. That's why he's bald, right? His hair. He's been playing on his hair on fire so long it all burned off. Come get some, Battanian fucks. We're outnumbered about 2-1 here, but look at the power bar, right? We're only slightly underdog to win the battle, and with tactics, that means we got a good shot to win here. Now, we got a little bridge battle here. We're kind of a long ways away from these bridges, and you never know where the enemy is going to be. Back here, I have a really unique hillside. There's a steep ridge that kind of runs right down the middle of our location. This is definitely potentially a defensive point. If we can't get to the bridge and make a defense, we can probably defend here. Guys want to see offensive tactics on the channel, and I have various different episodes on the channel that will be beneficial for you. We'll probably have some during the campaign, but they're rare, and the basic dynamic is most of the time we're outnumbered. The other reason, of course, is most of the time if we're the attacker, that means our enemy's running from us, right? That means that we have an army that's probably stronger than theirs, and even basic tactics should be able to overwhelm an enemy when they're playing defense. That said, if we do have tactics, if we do have battles where the enemy is playing defensive, we will try to include that in these episodes. I don't know how many of these episodes I'm going to have before we time warp, just like the Aserai campaign. Of course, we're playing these out, right? Of course, I could just go time warp anytime I want, but I don't want our city sieged while I'm just trying to let 15 years pass by too, right? We want a little bit of a buffer here so that Baron York doesn't get captured while I'm out planting vegetables. I am a full-time gardener. That's sort of how I balance my Bannerlord hobby, right? We'll sit on our asses here and engage in some not so terrific physical hobbies, and then we'll push a big heavy wheelbarrow around, split some firewood, grow those forearms. Now this is not tenable. The Battanians are going to reach this upper bridge first. We're not going to be able to get there to cut it off, so let's try a peekaboo ridge defense here. It's a very unorthodox area to try a peekaboo ridge. We have this very steep hill, but it's a very odd angle, and the enemy's not going to approach in the angle I want, right? So we're going to have to sort of bait them up the hill and then come over the hill to the left here. They are attacking us, right? They attacked, I think. I was pretty sure they attacked, which means that obviously they have to attack. They have to come to us. This is like how women have been treating dating, right, for the last 100 years. No, you must hit on me, and then you must buy dinner, right? For all the different inequalities that women face in the world, that's the lasting one that men face, right? All you young guys that are out there dating, it's like, what the fuck? What do you mean I got to pay for dinner? Every dinner. And of course, I suppose things are changing. Maybe I'm just outdated, right? When I was in my dating era, and I'll have to tell you guys at some point or other about when I did a little power dating. I won't do that again, but it was a fun experience. Just for reference, maybe someone can remind me. I went on 8 dates in 5 days. It was interesting. 8 different women. Very, very interesting times. Not recommended, but it was interesting. I think maybe things are different. I don't know. The saying "going Dutch" or whatever, where does that mean that the woman pays for half or something like that? I think maybe more and more now women are contributing as we get closer towards so-called equality. Anyways, I digress. We're getting off subject here. I'm just sort of skirmishing with the enemy here, quite literally, throwing some javelins as they approach us, because if we just roar over this hill instantly, they will come at us at a very bad angle for our defense, right? They will come at us in broken waves, and this defense won't work. I think we have the right angle now, although it's still going to be sort of tenuous. And of course, we highlight this all the time on the channel. This is going to be a reverse slope decline. I often call it a peekaboo ridge defense. I actually started calling that before I read more about the military term for it, the military history for it. I am a military historian, so to speak, right? I love reading about military history. There's endless history, right? It's one of those things, if you want to learn, it's like fucking picking up the phone book and reading all the names, right? It wouldn't be very fun. Military history is a lot more interesting, but there's an unbelievable amount of military history. Why? Because, of course, we're a violent organism. Thousands of years of documented battles, and it's interesting over the years to watch military tactics and the human mind come up with ingenious ways to kill each other. Now this is one of them, right? What we're effectively doing here is highly limiting the ability of their archers to participate in this battle. That's the #1 value of this tactic. It does have value against infantry. The motherfucking cavalry are charging us. That's good. Come get some, right? You guys want to come without support of your infantry and archers, we will be happy to kill you. Because their archers can't get over this ridge, right, they can't really shoot until their archers are very close, at which point they're highly vulnerable to cavalry and infantry charges. They can't shoot at us at 150 range, right? They can't see us. So it does work for infantry, but it's a lot less effective. A peekaboo rush is what I call that, and that's basically where you let the enemy come up to the ridge, and as long as you have a reasonably strong defense force, you can then rush, or offensive force, so to speak, an infantry force. You can then rush in and kill them. I need your spear, dude. Kill this guy. I want his spear. I just realized that I entered this battle with my siege equipment, so we're looking in the goodwill pile here for a spear and a shield. I'll take somebody else's, right? Baron York's. Beggars can't be choosers. At least we got a spear now. Eventually we'll grab a shield. Now those guys are shooting at that cap division that I had charged when they charged us. Look at all the bolts flying over, and that death spam. That's from our guys that ran over that ridge, and that perfectly illustrates what's going on here. If we tried to charge, they would absolutely rip our army apart. In other words, if we go over this ridge in front of us here, we are dead. Here we go again with the reinforcement mod. A caravan of Gertling the Ironmonger wants some of Baron York. It's great for the role-playing element of it, right? You picture all these pillaged caravans that Baron York has like murdered their uncle and sacked their villages and shit like that. They're all trying to get revenge. All these peasants are like, there he is, capture Baron York, that sack of shit. Now that would be the ultimate if I could edit it to be profane, right? There's that sack of shit bastard Baron York, kill that son of a bitch, right? That would be much better. Although then again, we're scaring off the people who don't like the swear words. I think it would be pretty authentic. I think that's what you would actually feel about people who were sacking your villages and caravans. I don't think you'd be saying, oh shoot, uncle, they're back again, the raiders are coming here. No, you'd be like, oh fuck, we are getting raided, people are getting murdered. It's just like when I give the analogy, when you hit your thumb with a hammer, it just never, when you swear, when you suffer pain, it alleviates the pain for some reason, right? It like makes it better. When you slam your fucking thumb in a car door, it just doesn't feel right to say, oh shoot, oh, darn it, dang it. No, it feels a lot better. God, whatever it is, I guess that's blasphemy. We don't want to do some blasphemy here. We'll really start losing all the subscribers. But you'd be, motherfucker, that hurts. And then I just lost all the mom lovers out there. But I think, I think swearing would be pretty much part of a medieval battle. And of course, Tale Worlds has its own swearing, right? It's constantly, these guys are calling me a bastard, right? My parents didn't get married. The ultimate crime, right? If you're Catholic or strongly religious, you're not married. You're just a product of sex. What the fuck is that, right? They got to get married and shit, right? That was especially back in this era. That was like the ultimate sin, or at least way up on the list. You were basically ostracized. And of course, the parents, especially the woman, were ostracized because what are you doing, right? Having sex and not being married, right? God, Jesus, everybody, the church is offended. Now, we are going to talk some military history. We are going to talk some actual history. Being a fan and a student of history, especially for battles like this where it's sort of slow to get to the climax, there's plentiful opportunity for me as the tactician to talk about tactics, companions, strategies in Bannerlord, do some profane activity, and also talk about military history, right? We will talk about some of the interesting parts of military history, even something like that most people are aware of, but there might have been like a couple people that just learned that that's where bastard comes from. It comes from people born out of wedlock, right? That was sort of a medieval insult. A group appeared. We got more people joining, and look at it again, villagers of Athcathal. So we've got we've got all kinds of villagers and caravans pouring in. They probably don't like profanity. They're like, "There's that blasphemer! Kill the blasphemer!" And of course they did back then, right? If you blasphemed, especially in church, they would just burn you at the stake. It was like, "Come with us, you're burned alive," and that's part of the reason you got the Reformation and irreligion started to spread. Some of the extreme persecution that the church was behind, or more accurately, that people used the church to persecute people, and led to quite a bit of distress. I'm an extraordinary fan and student of the French Revolution / Napoleonic era. I would say of my different historical areas of knowledge, that is the greatest era of knowledge. I'm studying currently more in the 1700s because I want to do part of the Bannerlord 1700s mod. But you know, I do know a fair bit about the history of medieval things. I know lots of anecdotes. I know like things about their diet and politics and stuff like that. And some of the characters from medieval history I know quite about as well, whether it's Salahadini or Richard the Lionheart or other prominent people of that era. So we'll do a little bit of history as well. We'll mix in some blaspheming with our historical interludes. Now the Britannians are sort of surging back and forth. And at this stage, I'm getting a little bit impatient, mostly for you fellas. This is one of the critical aspects of a reverse slope decline, is patience. We're waiting for the enemy to come over this ridge. That way we can scorch them. Their archers can't get line of sight. But I mentioned at the beginning, as I want to kill this flag bearer here, the enemy has a very oddball location to come over this ridge. It's sort of like a stegosaurus humps here. It's sort of this broken ridge, and the enemy's coming over in odd trickled formations. Now their archers are sort of right at the edge of the battlefield there, right? We can start to give these guys some bolts in their face, but I think we're also going to go offensive here. So we can combine, in a way, the Peekaboo Ridge and Peekaboo Rush. I realize I've been kind of neglectful on the tactics for the last 5 or 10 minutes as we ramble about other stuff here, but this process I can explain to you, right? We're going to push forces up into the face of the enemy, and on both wings we have cavalry surrounding the enemy. Not to attack so much as to just surround them and slow them down, right? Their archers want to get space, although the land is a lot more jumbled here than it would be optimal. We're going to get in quite the tangle here. Look at this fucking giant tangle of troops, actually. I'm trying to bring these around here, but the death spam does not look good, right? This looks like a messy battle. And this is a perfect example of a battle we could lose out of nowhere. And, you know, I really look like a pompous idiot for giving narration about historical shit while we get fucking beat down by a bunch of... It'll be beat down by a bunch of caravan operators and shit like that. It's starting to look very ugly. Look at the power bar. Although, wait a minute, that's ours. So somehow we have... It seems like we're getting our ass kicked, but the power bar says that we're just crushing them. So I don't know. Maybe I missed a huge flush of green there. Now the Britannians are really roiled here. Here's Baron York at his best, shooting peasants in the neck, right in the jugular. Have an arrow in your neck there, peasant. These are literal peasants. So this is the reinforcement mod. Oh shit! Oh shit! We got killed. Fucking gravity killed him, just like Wazoo. The Aserai character had a problem with gravity, and Baron York just found out the hard way. His horse went flying down that cliff. Alright, we've gotten very messy here. There's fucking peasants trying to kill Baron York. Baron York just piled up. Gravity is undefeated, killed another guy. And now we've got kind of a crazy defensive, defeating enemy that outnumbers us, I think. At least we've got a hammer, though. This character's got a pretty good two-handed weapon, and of course he's gaining skill points. Oh shit, I just got ragdolled. I don't know what happened. I must have had no health. And this battle is very quickly regressing into chaos here. The enemy's shooting us now. We're over the ridge. I've lost my main character. I've got some javelins here, so we're going to continue the pursuit. Every time I look at the power bar, though, it looks like this battle's over, but I don't feel like we have a lot of troops. Where the fuck are our troops here? I don't understand what's happening, actually. I don't know if we've been sloppy here or the enemy. See, with the reinforcement system, you get anomalies like this. You might think you have an understanding of what's going on with the battlefield, and then you don't. I think what's going on here are tons of reinforcements. I mean, we've been killing guys pretty effectively this whole episode, this whole battle, and there are just enemy forces everywhere. Now, I can't tell if they're routing. No, they're not routing. They just turned to shoot. Like, we're in trouble here. And I have, like, no troops, and yet a giant red bar. So something's going on here. We've got anomalies to the reinforcement system. Look at our army here. We've got, like, 50 troops, and yet the enemy's running. I couldn't tell you what's going on, but it's, you know, it's chaos. And this is the pros and cons of the reinforcement system. On one hand, it's really interesting, right? It's a dynamic battle. On the other hand, it seems so chaotic it doesn't make sense. What the fuck is this? There's a huge amount of forces. Those are allied forces, I guess? So I must have not have seen it, but allies must have just poured in to help us here. And again, it shows you the highly irregularity of the reinforcement system. I mean, there's a gigantic amount of allied forces that just seem to pour out of the river. Now I'm getting fucking raked again, trying to run for my life. And I guess it's realistic, right? Our allies rolled into the battle here. I must have been narrating and didn't see a message, or there was no message. And now we have just a huge scrum at the end of this battle. It's just absolute it's absolute chaos. Now, I'm a fan of chaos, so part of me loves the reinforcement system, but it's also hard to make sense of it all, right? It looks like every single cavalryman in the history of Vlandia showed up to this battle, and I don't know where they came from. So there you have it. There's my genius narration for this episode. I don't know what the fuck is going on here. The reinforcement mod is not one that for sure we're going to use the rest of this campaign, but it's interesting to have it right now. Somehow we have 700 troops, and yet our own army, we have 16 guys left. So I'm not quite sure what happened here. We killed 400 and somebody else, I guess, killed the rest. Fortunately, no deaths here, and it's been an interesting episode. In fact, I'm looking down. We're going to be over an hour, I think, with all of this. I think we'll wrap this up here. So somebody came to our aid here. This is wild. I mean, I've used the reinforcement system before, but I haven't seen quite this dramatic effect, right? Where there was no forces near us, right, when we engaged in this battle. So they came a long ways to join this battle. And I don't know if they saved our bacon or not. I really couldn't tell you whether we were going to win that battle or not without help, because they got reinforcements too. There's like peasants and caravans joining the battle. It basically seems like absolute chaos. Just, you know, there's shopkeepers. It felt like the zombie apocalypse again. We get a little autosave here, and I think we're going to wrap this episode up. I do want to try to make sense of this here at the end of this battle. Belgear army. This guy wasn't here before. So this guy, not only did he help us, it's like during that time span, he traveled to where we are, which I've heard that was a thing before, but that's the first time I've ever seen a whole army just teleport to our location. Very, very interesting. Interesting, and at the same time, I don't want to say disconcerted. That's not the right word for it, but jarring is the word I would use for it. I'm a little bit, I feel like I've been hung upside down for 10 minutes and set right side up. I don't know which way is up. But we've got some prisoners to ransom here. We're going to wrap this episode up. In fact, I'm going to just start my spiel right here as we make just hordes of gold, right? We've got, it looks like every nobleman in the entire realm is taken prisoner by our army. Of course, 2 successful sieges, and then that last battle there, that'll do it, right? When we just made hordes of money and dramatically helped our kingdom. All right, let's wrap this shit up, friends. I appreciate you fellas. Of course, if you want to watch more from Baron York from this campaign, I can't make this promise, but I think I can say this with confidence. This is going to be one of the most unique Bannerlord campaigns you've ever seen. And of course, I can't spoil the secret on that, on why it's going to be unique. You'll have to watch it to see why. But I think if you're willing to invest the time, the probably 10 or 15, 20 hours that this campaign, it might be a little longer than that, we shall see. If you're willing to invest the time, I think it will be well rewarded. There's going to be twists and turns and things that I promise you don't anticipate. With all that said, of course, if you want to see more, please subscribe, hit that like button, leave any comments, criticisms. You can say less swearing, and I'll say I'll do my best and probably keep on swearing. I really appreciate your fellas' support. Just like Belgear here, I couldn't do it without you fellas. We're going to head north, look for some more combat. We will be back. There will be more episodes, probably 2 or 3 every week. And with all of that long-winded shit said, you know the saying, fellas. I will see you, friends, next time.